Welcome to More Than a Conversation, the podcast where we meet and have discussions with some of the most interesting people and innovative leaders in their fields from all walks of life. We will be discussing everything from politics to theology to religion to philosophy to life. Every once in a while, I may just be on here talking about whatever's in the news and whatever I think will be of interest to you. This is your host, Patrick Connolly, and I hope that today will be more than a conversation for you. Welcome to More Than a Conversation. This is Patrick Connolly, and today I am joined, in fact, this is the first time for me that I have more than one guest. So it's going to be more than a conversation in more than one way. But I'm actually joined today by Matthew and Marsena Cunningham, and they are the founders of Project Edinburgh, and we're going to get into talking about all of that. But first of all, thank you guys for coming on today.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure to be here with you.
Now, I do have to give a disclaimer in that we are recording this right after a dental visit, so they get free pass. I don't know, did both of you have to go to the dentist, or is it just a Matthew visit?
Just a Matthew visit.
Yeah, but Matthew on two sides, so I got the double whammy.
So he's coming back from double. So anything, if he says that's slurred or whatever, in fact, I don't know what kind of medicine they gave him, but he can claim that anything he says today is forgivable, and nothing can be held against him because he's coming back from the dentist office. But guys, I'm so excited to have you on today. We've been Facebook friends for a little while. And just seeing what you had going on, seeing some of what your heart was, and so on and so forth for Edinburgh and for Scotland. And so I am absolutely excited to have you. But before we talk about where you're going, before we talk about that, I always like to ask people, where are you coming from? And I think you guys are in Louisiana now. Is that right?
Yeah, that's our home base. Been on the road though, so very little actual time there.
Yeah.
Now, is Louisiana home for you originally?
Not originally. I'm originally from around Jacksonville, Florida, in a town called Middleburg. And
I'm from Eufaula, Alabama, born and raised. And we've been pastoring right at 25 years. And we just resigned our last pastorate, and we were there. We liked about 4 weeks of being there 10 years. And
wow.
In Louisiana. So our youngest daughter is at Louisiana State University, so we decided to keep our address and everything in Louisiana to be with her as well when we can. So that's where we're coming from, is coming from a long-term pastorate into the mission field, which has been very exciting and nervous all wrapped into one.
I am sure, and I can't help but throw a little jab out there. Being an Alabama girl and having a daughter at LSU, it must be uncomfortable times right now.
Yeah, it's a house divided on a lot of fronts.
So 25 years of pastoring. My wife and I are 6.5 years into pastoring, and extremely rewarding, extremely challenging, all those things. But I had no idea that pastoring could be so difficult that it would make you want to leave the country. I didn't know that it could do that to you.
Well, that and empty nest syndrome. That was the main culprit.
Now, how many children do you guys have?
we have 3 daughters. We have one that's 29 years old. She's married and has a our first grandchild, a little boy named Alan. And our oldest daughter's name is Sarah, and she's married to Ryan. And they live on an island off the coast of Virginia, Chincoteague, Virginia. And then our middle daughter, Shelby, she's an English teacher in Seoul, South Korea. So she's living in Seoul, South Korea now. And then our baby girl she's in college. She's an English econ major headed for pre-law.
Gotcha. So kind of a diverse group of kids you got there, it sounds like. You actually spoke about the island in Virginia. Have you guys been up there to the island and got to see the horses? Have you seen that? That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, the Chincoteague Church of God is one of our supporting churches. We did a presentation there a few weeks ago, and they're one of our supporting churches. We love those folks. Great people.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you are obviously affiliated with, connected to the Church of God. Now, did you grow up in the Church of God, or what's your backgrounds as far as before? I know it didn't start at pastoring. So
I
what's
grew
the
up in
story
the
before
Church of
that?
God. My parents, my dad was Church of God. My grandparents were Church of God. But Matthew,
I was raised Methodist.
the Methodist Church.
Got saved in a tent revival in the Church of God when I was 18. So,
Wow.
and then of course we waited a long time after that to get married. We were 19 when we got married, and
I was 18.
yeah, I was 19. She's 18. So we just celebrated 30 years back this past July. She didn't marry a preacher, but God called me to preach after we got married. So she has to stick with what she's got. I'm stuck. She's stuck with me.
I hear you. One person said, if you want to know if you married the right person, check the name on the marriage certificate, and that'll tell you who you're supposed to be married to, right?
Yeah.
So, it's you guys coming though 25 years pastoring, 30 years married. What advice do you give to somebody who's on the other end regarding marriage, pastoring, that whole combination? Both marriage has its own difficulties, much less mixing in the pastoral stresses and now mission stresses and so on and so forth. What advice would you give to anybody listening?
My first advice as a pastor's wife, I learned a long time ago that my husband is my pastor. And when he's preaching, I have to take what God gives him for myself and apply it to my daily life. And there's no pinning no roses on anybody. But as you grow and as you are married longer and you're in the church and you're both working, I have went back through a lot of sickness and tragedies in our families. I told him a few years ago, I said, I think we got to go back to the simplicity of the gospel. And I think we got to go back and say, okay, what does this mean to me and why are we doing this? And the older you get, perspectives change. That's in any person, whether they're saved or not. But within the church world, it's a growing together. There's not one ahead of the other. It's a partnership growing through the marriage and through pastoralship. Because, when one's up, the other's going to be down, and one's down, the other one's going to be up. And it's a true partnership.
This is coming from the counseling major in college. From my perspective, we figured out a way to really enjoy being around each other all the time. And it's a pleasure for us to be with each other. And we travel on the road. We're in the car for 10, 15 hours at a stretch. We're constantly with each other everywhere we go. Everything we do, we pretty much do together. And we enjoy that. We enjoy each other's presence. And we look for reasons to stay in the same room with each other rather than the other way around. So to me, that's key for us. We just enjoy being with each other.
We like each other.
Love each other.
She wasn't ready to go that far, after 30 years, maybe after 40 years, then she'll go that far. Yeah. And that's, you talk about your husband being your pastor and so on and so forth. Through it all, obviously you have the humanity of two people who are humans and you see the flaws and who that person is in a very real way. And so that's always interesting to me to hear the input of somebody who has obviously walked that path. And I'm sure there's a lot more advice that you guys could give. That's obviously not the entire scope of the conversation, but that is definitely advice that's good advice to listen to and to take heed to. So you guys pastored your last pastorate. You were 10 years there. How in the world? Now I know you said you've got one daughter that's in Korea.
Yes.
Okay. And so obviously as pastors, ministers, you've got connection to some mission work. You've got a daughter that's doing mission work. But how on earth did you guys decide we're going to go from pastoring to the mission field? Tell me that story.
Go ahead.
Well, I guess I need to start on that one. Our middle daughter that is in Korea right now, while she was still in college, she had to do a semester abroad and she chose London. She went to King's College in London, but they sent her for 2 weeks up to Edinburgh, Scotland, for an in-depth study in British literature. And when she returned, she talked about being able to see some of the different sites Our last name is Cunningham, and there's a lot of Cunningham things in Scotland. It's the birthplace of our family, and they're part of a noble class. They have castles and things like that. So she got to see a lot of those properties. And when she came back, she goes, "Hey, Dad, the only thing missing was you. So Merry Christmas." She bought me a ticket to Scotland, her and I both. And she took her daddy to Scotland. This would have been, this past Father's Day in June would have been 1 year ago, 2018. Went with her. And I thought, well, I don't want to just go to Scotland just to see the sights. So I contacted some friends of mine that had connections and got in touch with the National Overseer of Scotland for the Church of God, Brother Dennis Tanner, and asked him if he had a project in mind. And as all good overseers would, he spit one out within 3 nanoseconds of being asked. And there's a church there in Glasgow, Scotland. So we got together with our church and we raised about $5,000 to take up to them to bless that church. They just recently moved and just bought all the chairs for their new sanctuary. That just kind of led to a connection. Then we came back and then I went to General Assembly. Mission service at General Assembly is where it really happened for me. The Lord really connected me with the Scottish delegation, and they actually asked me to accompany them for the March of Nations on the mission service. So I was on the
Now, let me
platform
hop
with
in.
them.
Let me hop in and just explain to anybody listening out there, a lot of non-Church of God people listening, the General Assembly is a biannual, every 2-year gathering of Church of God ministers and members alike from around the world. In fact, we come together for several days at different cities. And what happens at whatever city we're gathered in, we have business sessions during the day where housekeeping items, business items with the church are taken care of, policy is set, so on and so forth. And then in the evenings, we have church services where there's worship and special guest speakers and so on and so forth. But it's an amazing event because of the fact that there's thousands of people that are gathered and from all over the world. One of those evenings is a world missions service where the entire scope of the service is focused around the impact that the Church of God has made around the world and all that's going on around the world in the Church of God, in congregations, in mission work, and so on and so forth. I just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry about that, Matthew. Let's jump back to mission service, General Assembly.
So that service that night, the Lord really laid upon my heart. I sat next to the National Overseer of Scotland, Brother Dennis Tanner, and the altar service is where the Lord just planted it in my heart. My wife couldn't be with me. She had recently underwent a surgery. She was at home recovering. And so returning from General Assembly, I came back with an offer that the Overseer of Scotland gave to me, and that was to coordinate this World Missions Project in Edinburgh, the Send the Light Project. And so I presented it to her, and we really had heard, both of us really had heard from God, I think, by that time. And so we started on the journey there. We didn't know if it was going to mean giving up pastoring or if we could juggle both of them at the same time. We got our World Missions status number, project number for us personally, that following November. And 065-0960, we've committed that one to memory. But it is, we became missionaries in the Church of God at that point, but still pastoring the church. World Missions Department, if you are going to move over, they want you to raise an entire year's worth of budget in advance before you go. Some of the reason for that, they just don't want you to go and run out of money and have a hard time getting back, or things happening over there, that especially emergencies and things that would bankrupt your account. So, and also the governments of these foreign countries, they want to know that you're coming and not going to be a liability on their system.
Right.
So we're having to raise, think about raising your entire household budget, which would have to include 3 to 4 trips across the Atlantic for travel, raising that budget in advance while living at the same time. So, but the Lord laid it upon our heart when we resigned the church to step out to do the mission work. He really opened the doors for us and made connections for us, and so far it's been very, very rewarding. Not just the financial part of it, of seeing the gifts coming in, but the connection with people, the networking that we've been able to do, spending time. We spent a month in Michigan. I've never been in Michigan, and found out that Michigan's a really great place. Mm-hmm. So this is, the whole story basically is God planted in our heart, and the Spirit spoke through several individuals who gave us what the Lord had laid upon their heart, prophecy towards success in this way as well. This was after we made the decision, and it was more of a validation of what we decided. And God has it's been going faster than we can keep up with. I don't know if that really makes any sense, but we really have experienced God doing things so fast that we have to struggle to keep up with it. Mm-hmm. It's opportunities come faster than we can keep up with it.
One of the I won't say craziest things, but one of the things that we really had to come to grips with is the fact that we had a congregation that absolutely loved us, would have did anything for us, would have been over backwards, was so accommodating every time we needed to go out of the country or needed to go somewhere. They were, helping us raise money. But it all came down to this. It was so difficult to be 100% in the congregation and doing what God called us to do there, and then being 100% of the Scotland project. We had to make a sacrifice, and our hearts were not quick at that. We had to pray and ask God to help us. But when we resigned our church, those people have just sent us forward and prayed over us and are supporting us 100%, even today in the mission effort. So I feel like when God is in the midst of it, there's not going to be confusion. It's going to be the right way and do the right thing. And that's something that we have set out a goal for ourselves, is we want this to be a concerted effort with our families and with, our ministry family as well. And God's been doing.
So you go back to your church and you tell them, you start out, when you start out, you're actually trying to manage this project and pastor at the same time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that is correct. My first trip in June was just basically supposed to be tourism, turned into God planting it in my heart. We both went back in November of 2018 for their annual ministers convention. And then I went back in February. I went back again in March. She went back by herself late March. And
I preached a women's convention there. They have their Mother's Day is in March, the last Sunday of March. So I did their Mothering Day conference. And it was just like I knew God was leading us. We just didn't have a time frame. That was we just were so lost on time frame. How's God going to work this out? But then he did. He made it such an opportunity to open up that we were like, this has got to be God.
I'm too straightforward of a person when it comes to being honest. I withheld myself from raising that annual budget while we were still pastoring. We were putting money towards the project. We were setting things up logistically. But when it came time to actually raise our personal budget to go over, I couldn't justify pastoring a congregation and then behind their back going to other churches and say, hey, help me get this money so we can go ahead and move to Scotland. We had to step out, and we did this by faith. And like I said, the Lord's really blessed that. And maintaining a good relationship with our past church has been important as well.
And we have a lot of people question us and ask us, well, doesn't the Church of God give you a salary? When you have a missionary status as minister abroad, you do not get a salary. There's no salary, nothing attached to it. We have to raise our own budget to be there in order to get our visa, but we also have to raise our finances to pay our car payment and our insurance and cell phone bills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just to live. So the doors that have been opened to us in Michigan and South Carolina and Georgia and Florida and Alabama, it's like you're on the evangelism field, honestly. That's what it feels like right now.
Wow. And that's the challenge of that has to be immense, I'm sure. Now, what is the end goal? Is the goal for you guys to reside permanently in Scotland? Is that the goal at this point?
Yeah, as soon as we reach a certain threshold financially, we can apply for our visa, and the longest visa that we can obtain is 2 years. After 2 years, you'd have to renew. So we'll be getting a 2-year visa initially, and moving over. Our target moving date is just after our General Assembly that finishes in the first week of August. Starts in July and goes into August. And so we plan to have our visa complete and approved, and then we'll physically move over in August, and then that'll be our home. We'll be living there as permanent residents, coordinating this project. We're starting from scratch over there, so it's there's a lot of work to do in the planning and logistics areas, and then recruiting staff and personnel. It's going to be a big venture. We've been getting a lot of pledges toward the project itself, and so it looks like that financially we should have the resources to accomplish our mission and vision of the project itself. That's mandated by the World Missions Department to plant a birthing church there in the city. It's not only strong enough to sustain itself, but also strong enough to start new churches in its region and the area around it.
Wow, that's quite a goal. Now, what's this transition teaching you? I mean, every transition, every move, everything is always teaching us. But you guys pastored, and as pastors, if you've evangelized, that's a different thing than pastoring. Being an associate or a youth pastor is different than being lead pastor, so on and so forth. But now you are missionaries. You are in a role that's completely different than the role you had before. How has becoming a missionary changed your thinking or affected your thinking about missionaries, about the idea of missions, about the thought of missions? Because to be brutally honest, which is kind of the point of having the conversation, I think a lot of times, for the most part, we get together with our pastor friends, we go to our camp meetings, and we associate with pastors and the evangelists, and we don't really spend a lot of time thinking about missionaries. We might have projects that we support and missionaries that the church gives to, but it's not a huge part of most churches. So how is this becoming missionaries changed your thinking regarding missions and missionaries?
The biggest challenge I've faced is I've always been on the other side of this. I've been the one hosting missionaries at our churches over the years. I've been the one raising funds, receiving the offering in our churches, and getting people to give on a monthly basis. We've always been mission minded. We've always supported not just projects, but we actually adopted missionaries over the years. So we had a lot of, we sympathize with missionaries a lot. Now that we are missionaries, then now it's going into empathizing. We understand now the challenges that comes with it. Because a lot of people do think more about the project than they do about the ones running the project. You still got to eat no matter where you live. And missionaries and learning how that they are responsible for raising their own budgets. I wasn't aware of that before. And so don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing anything. It's just learning something that I didn't understand before, how things work. Because the Church of God as a denomination has been very good to us in connecting us with churches that want to support us on a personal basis as missionaries. And that is the way that they have decided to fund missionaries, is connect them with churches who have a heart for that particular mission or that particular missionary. And they found that churches are blessed both ways when they have a connection with that one they're giving to. So they're allowing us to connect with these churches, and they're connecting with us. Yeah, so the Church of God has been good to us. They connect us with churches that have a heart for the missions to the area that we go, giving us an opportunity to connect personally with them as well. So in essence, I guess in a certain way, our salary would come through the Church of God, through the local congregations, but they also give us the opportunity to raise funds outside of the denomination. People can give. We have a lot of friends and family that are in other areas of the country as well that give to us. Looking at it from that perspective as a pastor going into missions work, I'm learning that missionaries, they can't be shy.
No.
And they can't just wait for things to happen. And I have found a newfound respect for what missionaries have been doing for all the years that they've been doing their work. It takes a special calling to do that.
I want to say for just a moment, as the pastor's wife, my first fear was my husband wouldn't be respected anymore as in place of Pastor Cunningham and to missionary Cunningham. I was afraid that I don't want to say status because that sounds so vain, but it is a status thing. You know, that you have someone that's pastored a long time, and then you're coming in as a missionary. I was so afraid that it would be considered like a downgrade. It has absolutely not been like that at all. Actually, it's given me more of a platform to minister to so many pastors' wives that are new pastors' wives or haven't been in it very long, or maybe they're needing a confidant or they're needing someone that they can confide in on a spiritual level, or maybe they're just really struggling within their churches. Man, this has opened up a season that I have not been in before, and it's opened up a ministry opportunity. Whereas I thought it was just going to be my husband being the missionary to Scotland to see this project come full circle, it's actually gave me a platform to be able to minister to women that I and other people that I never thought that I would get the chance to. It's been amazing.
You almost have to be out of that position to be able to minister to that position.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, there's so much in the church world. It's not just the church world, though. It's in leaders. It's in business. It's in even roles inside the church. It's almost like rather than seeing each other as people that we can learn from, we so often view the other people who are doing the same thing we're doing as competition, or as, you know, we can't be transparent with them. And so I think there's a whole mentality that goes into that. The idea that somehow there's not enough if you're in business, there's not enough customers. If you're in the church world, there's not enough people, if whatever it is. But the fact is, we're so much better off when we're all just promoting one another, when we're all helping one another, when we're all giving each other a place to lean and talk and so on and so forth. So I'm sure that's been amazing for you to be able to do that, to reach out and to do that ministry. Now, let me ask you this. You guys are, and I want to talk about Scotland specifically in a few moments, but you are a Alabama native, a Florida native, you're Bible Belt, Southern American people.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden you're stepping into a global scale. You're stepping into, well, you're traveling the country. You're spending time in parts of the country that you've not spent time in before. But not only that, you're stepping into a global spot. You're going to Europe. You're going to a part of the world that sees things differently than we do. And one of my favorite questions to ask missionaries, in fact, the first podcast I ever had was with Stephen Day, who's a missionary to Honduras. And we were talking about that concept of going from the American church, which is so often more American church than it is Christ church sometimes, and then stepping into that global view and how that changed him. Now, he has lived abroad now for some time. And he talked about how, you know, some of his quote unquote patriotism is probably a little different than it once was. Not that, you know, disliking his country or anything like that, but how has your view changed? And has it yet changed? Maybe it hasn't. Regarding just the idea of America, the things that America is, that the United States of America are absorbed in, whether it's our economy, our politics, our way of viewing the world. How has connecting with people globally, how's that affecting any of your views there? Well,
one thing we found out is that Scottish people are not very different from Americans in a lot of respects. The lifestyles are pretty similar. They do put their steering wheel on the right side of the car, but drive on the wrong side of the road. But they have very similar viewpoints when it comes. I mean, there's different perspectives, but they focus on a lot of the same things that we do. They're very interested in their economy. Of course, it is a very volatile time for the United Kingdom right now, specifically, and in Scotland individually, because they're talking about another referendum. Back in 2014, they voted down the referendum to go independent from the UK. There's another one coming from what they're saying, and they may go sovereign as a nation and separate from the UK. A lot of that's because of the Brexit, the exit from the EU, the European Union. So some of those things are very similar, but in other parts, it is strange as an American hearing some of the sentiments or some of the perspectives of how they view, especially like history of the world. It was they don't call it like the American Revolution; they call it the Revolt. So I thought it kind of took me off guard. I'm like, okay, I could see where y'all would have a perspective. We revolted against you, and so, but it was a revolution. But the Scottish people, though, have a history of such conflict especially with England, but with the Vikings as well, and the Norse would come through, and the Spanish as well. So their viewpoint of the world is not very different in how that they gather their viewpoint. They're just standing in a different perspective, if you can kind of catch what I'm saying there. And they've embraced us, though, and we them. I think it's interesting that they have a healthy respect for an American, and we have a healthy respect for them. And they're very ordinary people, very practical people. And the Scottish people are not flamboyant, and they are miserly people. They're not big spenders. They're not flashy. They're very, very practical kind of people. They like to tell the joke of how copper wire was invented. Two Scottish men grabbed a penny and ran in opposite direction. They don't like to let go of that not one red cent, or pence as they would call it. There are some culture shocks for us, though, that we had run into. Not just the driving on the left side of the road, but some of the ways they view things, like when you're standing in line, they're very adamant about not cutting in line, and they will tell you. That's one of the things there. But Scottish people in particular, they see you in need. They will do everything in their power to help you. They're very, very hospitable people and very gracious people. And that might get lost in some of the movies that show Scottish people. They're very tough, but Scotland is a lot like America, in some ways, because there's very different regions and the cultures are very different, specifically between the Highlands and the Lowlands. If you took America and flipped it, the rednecks in Scotland are up north in the Highlands, and the city people are down south in the Lowlands. And a lot of the same traits that city, urban people and rural people have in America, they show up with them as well. They just have a very different accent when they share it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about Scotland, as far as from a religious point of view. I understand, obviously, you have the Church of Scotland that I think, there's some 30% of the population is affiliated with. But what is the religion like, as far as what would the demographics say? And then going beyond that, how does it actually break down into practical life?
So the history coming from Scotland, John Knox being the great reformer in Edinburgh, Scotland, St. Giles Cathedral there still stands as a testament to the Church of Scotland. When Scotland joined the UK, they didn't give up their religion. So the Church of England is the official Church of England, but the Church of Scotland is the official Church of Scotland. And John Knox said it this way: so the head of the Catholic Church was the Pope, the head of the Church of England was the King, the head of the Church of Scotland is Jesus Christ himself. And he pushed that very, very adamantly. They sent missionaries to America in various ways, and the Presbyterian Church is birthed from the Church of Scotland. It is basically the birthplace of the Presbyterian Church. Very strong. The Bible Belt of America was due in large part to missionaries that came from that part of the world, from Scotland and England and Ireland as well. And that that strong religious tone of that area of the world that was translated to the Americas and was established here, they have seen a decline, a severe decline. There are 30% of the population or so is affiliated with the Church of Scotland, but on Sunday mornings, around 7% of the population are actually in a church service of any kind, any denomination at all.
Wow.
So they're saying that within the next 2 to 5 years, it'll be below 5%. It's in a severe decline as far as church attendance is concerned. One of the bright spots for us, being part of the Pentecostal movement in the Church of God, is that since 2008, all the denominations that are Pentecostal in nature have actually doubled in size since 2008. So if there is any growth, it's in the full gospel, full experience, more spontaneous worship, the full worship experience. Those services are being heavily attended by the younger generation. That's the ones that are seeking a real experience in worship. They dispense with the formalities. They don't want the ceremonialism. They want a real worship experience and experience God for themselves. And that's the niche right now. And Edinburgh is the capital city of Scotland, but it's also home to 4 major universities. There's 30,000 college students that live in dormitories there in the city. And that generation is very much primed for basically revival.
Yeah, exactly.
Revival.
Exactly.
Wow. When you see that, we often hear of Europe as being a microcosm, or maybe not a microcosm, but an example of what is coming here as far as becoming more secularized, seeing the emphasis on religion changing and so on and so forth. And that's probably a conversation we could have. Going there to start a church, though, or to be part of a rebirth, an awakening, a revival there, what is it about Scotland that you look at and you go, when I see this, I see hope? There's some audacity that's required for 2 people to say, you know what? We've got kids. You've got grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
At least one, right?
Yeah.
Is that one grandbaby? You've pastored. You could, even if the church in America is in decline, let's say it is. Let's say it's not, it is, whatever. That's a total another conversation. You could have easily have rode it out. You could have retired. You could have lived a decent existence here. But you had the wherewithal to say, you know what, we think that there's hope, and we think that there's hope in Scotland. Now, we look at the world and we say Europe is more secular than ever. We say we're going that way. It just seems like there's so many indicators that are against doing what you're doing. Not only that, you're going to a place where you don't have the luxury, and I'm not minimizing anyone that goes to another place, and I hope everyone understands that, but you don't have the luxury of going to a place that has a lower standard of living, where you don't have to raise as much money. You're, if anything, I don't know what currency is. Are they on the euro there, or
it's the Scottish pound?
The Scottish pound.
United Kingdom. It's the pound. The British sterling and Scottish pounds are basically interchangeable. But it's on the British pound.
So you're not going somewhere where, $100 buys you a half a year's worth of supplies. You're doing this expensive, these miles, you're traveling around the country. What on earth are you thinking? I'm kidding. What gives you, to the people that are out there listening, what makes someone say, I'm going to upend my life and go with no assurances, with no promises, with no money, we're going to go over here because we've got hope. Where's that coming from?
Well, it's kind of our MO. Even the first time that we took our first church, there were 6 people in that church when we got there. And everybody asked us that question back then. I resigned a very lucrative paying job, and so we went because God called us to go. And this is it. The difference is we have learned to obey God because the alternative is pretty miserable for us. What we see in Scotland, I think that the method of planting this church is where we see the greatest hope and light. We'll be starting a ministry training center that will be hosting seminary interns from 3 different seminaries, from the PTS seminary there in Cleveland, Tennessee, from the European seminary there in Germany, and from the Russian seminary. And also, it'll be a semester abroad location. We're in negotiations with Lee University, Oral Roberts University, Valor College, different ones, to send their undergraduate students doing the semester abroad study to our location. So students in schools of ministry and music and even the nursing school and counseling will be coming to this training center and populating that, and they'll be the staff that will do the church launch. They'll be the ones that'll greet you at the door. They'll be the ones playing the instruments on the stage. They'll be looking after the children in children's ministries and things like that. And they'll have a motivation to do the best that they possibly can, because part of their education, it's required for their degree paths, and it's ministry. It's immersion in ministry. We have an advantage that the language doesn't present a problem. It's the English language. There's no language barrier. So the singers can come over and sing their regular songs like they normally would sing, and they're understood. So there's also the peace of mind for the parents that send their college students over there. Their kid gets lost on the street. There's no language barrier. They can ask anybody what they need, and they can find it. We see an opportunity to start something, not on a small scale in a little small back room somewhere that grows into something large. We see the opportunity to work this area in such a way that we can start something on a larger scale. The largest single congregation that meets on Sundays is around 350 in the entire country of Scotland. That's the largest congregation that's in one service at one time.
Now, is that across all denominations, or is that just a Church of God?
Every church of any flavor you want to talk about. The largest is around 350, and it's not a liturgical church either.
Right.
You see these massive buildings that are Church of Scotland buildings and properties that the old medieval Gothic architecture. They'll hold 250 to 300 people in their main seating area, and they'll have 25 people coming to church on Sunday. They're selling buildings left and right. They do a service called deconsecration, where they'll take an old church building that they don't need anymore because no one goes there. They'll do a ceremony where they'll deconsecrate it so that you can do anything now. It's no longer a sacred place. They're turning them into bars and dance halls and concert halls and all kinds of different, gaming facilities and things like that are going into those. There'll literally be a pipe organ on the wall with a bar right up next to it. But what we're seeing, though, Scotland has a history of revivals. And some of the greatest revivals in the 20th century took place in Scotland. And as a result of that, it lets us know that they've reached a tipping point. Yes, it's gotten bad. It looks like it's getting worse. But sometimes when it's darkest, that's when the light of Christ shines the brightest. And we really see this as an opportunity for a new generation who's not just their parents didn't take them to church, but the trend of non-attendance and non-engagement with church is 3 generations old in Scotland now.
Yeah.
So even their grandparents didn't go to church or didn't have a lifestyle that reflected anything of a Christ-like lifestyle. They're brand new to it. They've not been programmed any other way, and they're experiencing Christ brand new for themselves. I see this as a perfect opportunity, a great mission field. Some think we're crazy, but I just say that we're obedient to the call of God, and where God's in it, we believe there's nothing but success ahead.
Amen. Well, we certainly are praying for you and hoping that and believing that you're going to see these things come to pass. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be listening to the podcast and they're going to say, hey, we're going to pray for the Cunninghams. But I think there's probably something else we can do besides pray for you. And that is we can give, we can follow you on social media, find out opportunities to give and so on and so forth. How can somebody keep up with you guys?
So our main Facebook page is called Project Edinburgh. It's pronounced Edinburgh, even though there's a GH at the end. And that is on Facebook, Project Edinburgh, or you can find either one of us personally on Facebook, and it'll link to that as well. Matthew Cunningham, Marsena Cunningham. Also, the Church of God World Missions website. You can put our name in the search bar there and locate us that way. We always post on social media, and the link to get to that particular page in World Missions website that you can give to us directly. You can also contact World Missions directly, call them, and then mention us, and our project number 065-0960, and that will come directly to us to help us stay on the field.
Awesome. So go over to those spots and help out the Cunninghams, help out the Send the Light Project there too. And I'm going to have to start saying it that way, Edinburgh. I'm wanting to say Edinburgh with everything that's in me. That's what I want to say. I guess the other question is, when you move there, how often are kilts required?
He wears one every Sunday.
So I've grown to really like my kilt. I love my kilt a lot, but I don't wear a kilt in Scotland. They don't wear them unless it's a special occasion, as weddings and funerals and ceremonies like that, parades and things. But in America, making the presentations at these churches, the kilt is a great conversation starter. It gets a lot of attention. And so I really do enjoy it a lot. We'll be doing something on our Facebook page soon where I'll be completely dressed in the full regalia. We're going to do a video where I'll describe every piece of it and the history of how it became the way it is, why it's done that way, and what it really means and the message it's in. Because it's not a skirt, it's called a kilt, because that's what happened to the last person that called it a skirt.
I have to wonder how conflicted that the Florida boy from northern Florida had to be the first time he thought about, I'm going to wear a kilt.
Yeah.
It was 37 degrees and rainy and windy in Tennessee when I did that and walked across the parking lot, and I got a newfound respect for ladies that wear dresses to church.
I am sure. Now, the other question is, have you picked up the bagpipes yet?
He's practicing, actually. He's got a cantor that he's been practicing on, so I'm excited about that.
So you're going to have all this figured out, and then you're going to go to Scotland, and you're going to have all the traditional stuff, and they're going to we don't do that.
Yeah.
But it works for the presentation here for sure. That's interesting though. So it's like a special occasion thing. So it's like the tuxedo of Scotland. It sounds like.
Yes, I would say it's identical to that in that respect. Now they do have family tartans or plaid design. So. And the Cunningham clan does as well. We have our own plaid design. But the kilts now are going into more of a fashion style. So it's not necessarily if you're family, it's just a certain style and fashion. So it's not going into so much the families as much, unless it's for a very, very special occasion, like a wedding or a funeral. But even weddings now, they're dressing the groomsmen in matching kilts that are more of a fashion design instead of a family plaid.
Wow. Interesting. Well, anything else you guys want to leave with us before you go?
We just want to say thank you for having us. This has been exciting, and we look forward to hearing from people. And most of all, send us your prayer requests. Man, we pray over people. We pray and believe with people, because that's what it's about, is connectivity and all of us reaching that perfect goal, and that's to make heaven our home.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Check out the Cunninghams on social media. Check out Project Edinburgh. I know that you'll be blessed. Partner with them. They are needing support. And then the beautiful thing is you get to be part of gathering a harvest of souls that you never even met. Thanks so much again, guys, for joining us. Love to have you back on maybe in the future. We might even get you back on once you get to Scotland and talk about what's happening there.
Yeah.
We would love to do that. We'd love to do one in person with you in Scotland.
Yeah.
I'll get my kilt ready.
That's right.
Absolutely.
You guys have a great one. Thanks so much. God bless.
God bless you too.
Thanks again for being part of More Than a Conversation today. If you'd like more content like this, check out my blog at www.pastorconley.com. That's pastorconley.com. Again, that's pastorconley.com. I'd also love to see you join us in worship at Garden Sanctuary. If you're ever in Rock Hill, South Carolina, or the greater Charlotte area, we'd love to have you stop by and worship with us. Check us out at www.gardensanctuary.org. That's gardensanctuary.org. Until next time, I hope this has been more than a conversation.